We tried to recall her, and it was a legal technicality, the reason why the appellate court would not overturn the ruling for her to be recalled. So therefore, we have to wait until the next election or until the feds come and get her. And so hopefully the feds will come first before the next election.
All right. Valerie Stubbs, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And that does it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. Banfield starts now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight. You're going to have to bear with this voice. I had a little incident with a fireplace, so I sound a bit rough, but we're going to get through it. I do have a couple of lozenges to help me along the way, so I'll apologize in advance. But I got some really good stuff for you tonight, and my great thanks to Brian Enton, who stood by for me Monday and Tuesday while I was really, awful. You didn't want to know. Tonight, there's, really bizarre details coming in on those two missing women, those Kansas women who went missing in Oklahoma. Suddenly, the cops are telling us more, like what was in the car, which is why they're now saying foul play. Almost 5 days since they've been missing, we're now hearing foul play. What was in that car? And guess what else? We're starting to get some stories about one of the women's family. And there are, let's just say there's lots of rap sheets I'm going to report to you tonight. But does that add up to the families behind it? So many new details for you. Going to take you for a live report to Oklahoma tonight. Also, if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow and you had no control over it, people were literally going to grab you by the arms and lead you to your death, what would you be thinking? How would you be planning your last meal, your last words, your last dreams, your last shut-eye? All those bizarre questions. We talked to this guy. He's got 12 hours to live. Michael Smith. We talked to him literally as the hours tick. We are inside his head about what it's like to be a condemned man. Let's be clear. Crimes that he committed are horrendous. You're going to hear that too. But I am super fascinated with a condemned man's last night on earth and what goes through their mind. You're going to hear that tonight. That's an amazing interview by Brian Enton. And then, the whole thing about 15 minutes of fame, everybody's supposed to have it. Well, there's one guy who probably really wishes he didn't get his second 15 minutes because his first 15 minutes was sort of fun on an MTV dating show. And his second 15 minutes is in a mugshot. And what led up to that mugshot is ugly. It's videos and pictures no one should ever see. And the crimes he's, accused of committing are sick. Let's just say Dateline used to have a whole show to catch a predator about these accusations. Going to hear all about Connor Smith and what it was like to finally rein him in and where he was when they got him. All that coming up in just a moment. Let's start here. It's been 4.5 days since those two women from Kansas vanished in the Oklahoma Panhandle. 4.5 days since they found the women's car abandoned on the side of a super desolate backcountry road. I mean, look at that. The sound of a truck, maybe. No one would hear you scream if you disappeared from there, right? And even though the police called this whole thing suspicious right from the beginning and called the women endangered, only now, 4.5 days later, are they using that two-word phrase that the rest of us kind of already assumed, foul play. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation posted the following statement on Facebook today, and I'll just read it for you because it's real short. Based on the information obtained from the victim's vehicle, our investigators believe there was evidence to indicate foul play. I mean, we're still searching yada yada, but period. That's it. That's all we get. What that, quote, information obtained from the vehicle actually is, they are refusing to tell us. But they will say they don't believe the rest of us. The general public is in danger here. Those missing women are 27-year-old Veronica Butler and 39-year-old Jillian Kelly. Veronica's on the left, Jillian's on the right. And they're both from the tiny towns of Hugoton, Kansas. And sources close to their families have told NewsNation that they were on their way to pick up Veronica's children in Eva, Oklahoma. Veronica's the younger one. We have learned that Veronica's children are in the custody of her ex, the mom, the ex's mom, the paternal grandma. But that is still being all sorted out, the whole custody thing in the courts. And her friend Jillian, the older woman, went along as a possible mediator. We've also learned that grandma filed a motion last fall opposing any changes to the supervised visitation plan. She claimed that the children had been exposed to, quote, sexual abuse while under the care of their mother. That was what she claimed, the grandma. How about the children's father? Because, like, where's he? That would be the grandma's son. And we've actually obtained some records that show he has a charge of possession with intent to distribute from 2017 in Kansas. And the records also show that he is currently in rehab. As for his dad, that would be the children's paternal grandpa, he has a much longer and way more serious rap sheet, including domestic assault, battery by strangulation, assault on a police officer, and violating a protective order. I want to be really clear here. As of tonight, no one is being called a suspect. And not only are investigators not talking beyond that little teeny tiny written statement, the women's relatives have told us that they have been asked not to talk to us either. 2 women missing. Cops won't talk to the media to help get tips. Cops won't allow the family of the missing women to talk to the media to help get tips. I got to bring in NewsNation correspondent Brooke Schaefer. She's live in Hugoton, Kansas, trying to sort all of this out tonight. Brooke, why is everyone being so secretive when there are 2 women missing and endangered?
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I think we were expecting when we came here. We were expecting, you've got 2 moms missing. They've been missing since Saturday. And we were really hoping to talk to the families. I can say I've talked to the aunt of Veronica. I talked to her on Facebook yesterday, and she was very kind and responding to me, but she told me that they've been asked not to talk, or that she couldn't talk until she got permission from investigators. And today we've been sort of just walking around here in Hugoton, Kansas. It's a very, very small town. Only about 3,000 people live here, a little bit more than that. But so it's a town where everybody knows everybody. And we've just been walking into shops, Ashleigh, and talking to people here. And everybody knows these 2 women. Some people have been willing to chat with us off camera, but other people have kind of pushed us away, even family members of some of these women. I think really a lot of it comes down to there's a lot of fear here. There's a lot of concern. Nobody really has any answers as to where these 2 moms are.
You know what? Can I ask you, because I'm looking at the scene behind you, Brooke, and normally when we do stories like this, an intrepid reporter like you will show up and there'll be yellow ribbons on the street lamps and there'll be all sorts of vigils, and I'm seeing a completely desolate street scene behind you. And I have heard, and you'll have to, disabuse me of this if I'm wrong, I've heard that you were not treated particularly well. And that shocks me, because I would think that everybody would be clamoring for media attention to help find these women, find their neighbors.
Yeah, I heard that they did have a vigil earlier this week. I want to say on Monday, one of the churches out here had a vigil. And some shops down here have this sign, the missing poster with the pictures of these 2 women and their information on it. But yeah, we went into a shop of a relative of one of these women, and they kind of were just like, nope, no media. And, like I said, to a degree, I do understand it, right? I mean, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of concern. And if investigators are saying, hey, hold off on chatting with the media, they probably don't want to do anything to potentially damage the case, right? I think really so much of it comes down to there is a lot of concern here, a lot of worry about where these women are. But beyond that, too, Ashleigh, I was talking with the woman a few doors down from here. This is Veronica's shop, by the way, shop here sort of downtown Hugoton, Kansas. So I talked to a woman in a restaurant just a couple doors down. She said that Veronica would come in all the time for lunch or dinner to grab some food. And she said, we're really concerned because we're not really getting a whole lot of information. And she's like, I'm a mom. I've got kids. I drive these roads all the time. They're very rural, desolate areas. Your cell signal's going in and out. She's like, do I need to be worried? So, today when we talked to investigators and we got that update that they suspect foul play, I called investigators right away to try and figure out, what was that evidence that you found in the car? They couldn't answer that. But beyond that, too, can you give us any information? Because we've got people in this town who are worried, rightfully so.
What was the connection between Veronica, the younger mom, going to get her kids, and Jillian, the older woman? What's the story between them?
Yeah, so first, when we got here, we talked to Veronica's pastor. He told us that the two were really more acquaintances than friends. That's what had been reported initially, that they were friends in the car. He said, really, they're more acquaintances. So we digged into that a little bit more. And from what we are told from people here in town, Jillian worked for DCF, and she was an approved person who could go along for these supervised visits. So that's what she was doing in the car as they were going to go visit Veronica's children.
Okay, then the other thing I'm surprised at, Brooke, and I've got a lozenge in, so I apologize to the viewers, but Veronica is remarried. She's got a current husband. And I would have, again, thought that if your wife is missing, you are taking to the microphone anyone who will hear your plea to help find my wife. But I haven't seen hide nor hair of him. What's his story?
Yeah, we talked to a couple people again here in town. We've just really been kind of going door to door trying to get some information from people. And we heard from one woman that it was Veronica's husband who really kind of sounded the alarm that, these two women didn't come back into town when they were supposed to, and he got really concerned. And according to this one woman here in town, she said that Veronica's husband was the one who started sort of driving that route, trying to find them. And apparently he's the one who found their car just abandoned on the side of the road. But yeah, pretty quiet from the family. We're not really hearing a whole lot from them other than, they've had some posts on social media. Yeah.
So speaking of that car, real quickly, just 30 seconds left here. The evidence that indicates foul play. I know the police aren't saying what it is, but is there talk out there of what the heck was in that car that made them say foul play?
There is definitely talk. The rumor mill is definitely going. Again, small town, everybody knows everybody. From what I'm hearing from people here in town, they've heard that there was maybe blood around the abandoned car. Again, we have not been able to confirm that information on our own because police aren't releasing that. I even pressed him. I asked that exact question today. I said, we're hearing there was maybe blood. Is that the evidence? So far, investigators aren't saying.
Oh, you got your work cut out for you, Brooke. Thank you for doing this and being out there late at night. If you hear anything more, just break in and let us know. It doesn't look there's a lot of people out there, but if someone pops by and wants to talk to you, just break into the show. Thank you, Brooke.
Will do.
Okay, now I want to bring in Phil Waters because he's my go-to. He's a retired homicide detective. He's worked on more than 400 homicide cases for the Houston Police Department. Phil, I always say this. Whenever there's a crime, or it looks like there's a crime, and there's mystery, and we have missing people who have not been declared dead, they're still missing, we usually assume that the police will shout it from the mountaintop and beg us to cover the story to help get tips, and that family members will do the same. It's the opposite here. Cops won't talk to us, and they have instructed family members not to talk to us. What do you make of that?
Well, it's good to be back with you, Ashley. This is a strange case, no doubt. I would tell you this. You're talking about a town at the state line there between Kansas and Oklahoma that's got maybe 1,900 people living in it, and it's a tight-knit community. And my speculation is that they don't want the media in their business. Now, in terms of law enforcement, there is a reason why they are keeping this stuff so close to the vest. I'm sure that when they saw what they saw at the car, no telling what that was, but there was something there that indicated that there was a foul play, to put it in their words. So I'm not, and I think they may have an idea of what the scenario was and who they're looking at. I think they are just being very close to the vest because they don't want to compromise what they know in this investigation.
That's what I figured. I figured they're being quiet because they got their eyes on the prize and they don't want to tip anybody off. But I also want to ask you, in this day and age, I'll just go back to the Riley Strain story in Nashville. There were cameras that captured his journey all the way to the point where his bank card was found and he was not seen again. This is so rural. I'm going to ask our control room to air some of those pictures of the those roadways. They almost look like dirt roadways in the middle of like the Great Plains. But for some power lines and a stop sign, there's nothing but grass. There's no cameras anywhere, right? There's no cameras. There's no surveillance. You're not going to be able to do the digital trail. I mean, look at this, this is one of the hardest things to solve, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's tough, but my speculation here is that Jillian accompanies Veronica because she is there for support in whatever this going and getting custody of this child. And you're talking about the panhandle of Oklahoma, and there's nothing out there. And like I said, Elkhart, Kansas is, maybe got 1,900 people living in it. So it's a flat area with not a whole lot going on. And and this is just pure speculation on my part, but I think that there was a point where they were going to make an exchange of some kind, and perhaps that location changed. And that's why the car is found where it's found. So something happened that changed up what the scenario was supposed to be. And then whoever met them, something went horribly wrong. And either one or both of those women are injured, or there was some sort of violence that occurred there that caused the people or a person that was there to panic. And what do I do? And so my thought is that could one person accomplish taking both of these women? And they could if one of them is hurt and the other one is now threatened. But I'm thinking there's maybe going to be a couple of people involved in this. And then when what happens, they go into panic mode, and all they can think of is get these two women out of there and let's take them someplace and figure out what the heck we're going to do.
I'll also say, Phil, if one person has a gun, that's control for a group. It could have been that as well. Phil, I'm out of time, but thank you. And I'm going to call on you again as we continue to dig and try to sort out this bizarre mystery. Thank you, sir.
Anytime. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure is ours, for sure. All right, coming up, he has been on Oklahoma's death row for 20 years, but now he has less than 24 hours to breathe. What is it like? What is it like for a condemned man to lay his head on the pillow tonight for the last time ever? We asked him. And our exclusive interview with Michael DeWayne Smith on the eve of his execution is next with Brian Enton. Almost 10:30 Eastern Time, which means 9:30 Central Time, which means Michael DeWayne Smith has a little over 12 hours left to live. Tomorrow morning, it's just a wee bit over 20 years since he was convicted of killing two people and sentenced to death. State of Oklahoma is going to strap him to a gurney and pump poison through his veins until he dies. The prosecutors say that is a far better end than Smith afforded his two victims. Brian Enton got an exclusive interview with Michael Smith, possibly his last public words before he's executed, just hours from now. And Brian joins me live. This is such a great conversation. I'm so fascinated by what goes through a condemned man's head, literally as he's going to sleep tonight. How was the conversation?
Well, honestly, it was a strange conversation to have, kind of disturbing. I've never spoken to anyone on death row before, Ashleigh, and I've never spoken to someone just days away from being executed. So I wasn't honestly really sure how to handle it. Little backstory: Smith's victims suffered terribly in their murders. It's important to know about the crimes before hearing his last words. First, he emptied two guns into a 24-year-old store clerk and lit the man's body on fire. Then he stormed into a woman's home and shot her because, according to him, she wouldn't stop screaming. And police say he confessed to a roommate, he confessed to a friend, he confessed to a cop, basically a legal trifecta. But Smith's lawyers tried to spare his life by claiming he has an intellectual disability. The state, however, says his IQ scores are too high for that. A parole board has also looked into all of this, and the execution will move forward. His family went to the governor's office just today in search of clemency, but as of this moment, again, the execution is on track. I spoke to Michael Smith exclusively about where his mind is at that moment. Here's some of our conversation.
I got a whole lot of different things going through my mind at the time, but my main focus things on my mind right now is my family first and foremost, and also the two appeals that I still have in criminal court appeals at this time. Have you had a chance to talk to them at all? For my family?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we talk every day. Actually, it was AMC on Easter Sunday, so we're in communication.
I know you've said in the past that you have been fighting. You say that you're innocent. I mean, does that fight continue? Do you feel at this point like it's over?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I think the fight continues even after. You know, I mean, no matter if I get executed or not, the fight will continue with my family. My family will continue to fight.
Again, it's hard for me to imagine what it's like to be in your situation right now with an execution so close. I mean, is it sleepless nights? Is it? Are there racing thoughts through your mind? Like, what is your mindset like right now?
Oh man, it's kind of crazy because as far as if you want to keep your faith, you know, you always want to keep your head up and keep your faith in God. That's part of the process of anything in life. You know, any struggles that one goes through, one always want to keep that faith and keep one's head up and stay strong through whatever circumstance. So it's just all about just staying strong for my family and trying to just keep the faith.
Do they give you any kind of information about like how this will happen? Is there, do they come in the day before or a couple days before and sort of give you any kind of briefing or anything like that?
Actually, it starts 35 days before. 35 days before the warden and the deputy warden pull you out and explain everything to you about the process.
And what do they tell you?
Just basically about what I can and can't have in the cell, when I'll be moved to the death cell, and the process. Actually, I've been down here so long, so I actually really already know the process. So it's basically they have to tell us, but they know I know, but they just have to tell me the actual process of how things don't proceed.
Have you been praying much?
Oh yeah, I pray every day, man. Pray every day.
Do they say anything? I mean, you always hear there's like a last meal, that kind of thing. Has that been brought up at all? Yeah, that's part of the 35 day. At 35 day, when I was talking about the 35 days, they ask you all that. It's a lot of paperwork you got to fill out as far as your last visit and your last meal and all that. And what did you put down for that?
Actually, I'm not having a last meal, actually.
What's the reason?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I never had any plans to have a last meal. Some guys that have already got their list rolled out. If I ever been down there, I never even planned on eating a last meal. That was something I never even planned on doing.
What do you say to people who will be listening to this who might think, that you're just trying to save your reputation, before the execution, protect your family, you know, that just think you're still not coming clean even now?
The evidence. I have the evidence to prove everything that I ever said, everything that I ever stated.
You have 1 minute left.
The evidence in my case proves everything that I said. The statement isn't a lie. You know what I mean? The evidence proves that.
Yeah, so we didn't have very much time to talk. You could hear there was a recording. They came on and said that there was only a minute left. But yeah, it's now 1 day to his execution, so it will be happening tomorrow, it seems, Ashleigh.
So incredible. I honestly can't believe he hasn't chosen the last meal. I mean, why not? It's the last possible joy you could have. It's just so strange, and all of it.
And he sounded
no matter
so
what
calm.
You think of the death penalty.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think of, like, what someone would sound like in that situation, but he just sounded like it was any other day.
It's so, and like I said, this is not about whether you agree or disagree with the death penalty. It's just weird to know this is your last chance to speak ever to the public. You'll have a few words at the execution, but how do you sleep? What do you think? Or have you had 20 years to process it, so now it's not so? Brian, such a great interview.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
Just so good. Just love Brian. Thank you. Okay, so coming up next, this is one of those stories that we love to tell. A police chase ends with the arrest of a man who allegedly did some terrible, terrible things to an innocent victim for months on end. And we can thank a highly trained law enforcement professional for that collar. In fact, he wears a collar himself. Hello, Rico. He not so gently persuaded a suspected kidnapper and torturer to surrender. And Rico and his human partner are live with me next. What happened to a woman in Florida over and over since the beginning of the year will turn your stomach. She was kidnapped off the street in Tampa back in January, allegedly by that man, Walter Medina, who allegedly lured her to his home with an offer of food and drugs, but then allegedly turned evil, brutalizing the woman with a baseball bat and a screwdriver, again, for months, breaking her ribs, leaving puncture wounds all over her body. The woman says she was tortured and held hostage for 2.5 months, until this week. That is when she finally made a break for it, outside a Tampa drugstore. Police picked her up, took her to safety, and then went straight to looking for the culprit, for Walter Medina. It took them all of 1 day to find him, and yesterday police from a handful of agencies chased Medina down, and when I say chase, this is the kind of chase I'm talking about, right? This was the end of the suspect's 100-mile-an-hour attempt to stay out of jail. And here's another angle of the takedown, and I want you to pay attention to the left side of your screen, okay? To see who charges in first to make contact with that violent suspect in the crashed van. Oh, yeah. Who's a good boy? See him? Who's a good boy? Taking all the risk. There he goes. That is a brave member of the Florida Highway Patrol, and he's only 7.5 years old. I want you to meet Canine Officer Rico. And thanks to Rico, quite a few other two-legged officers, Walter Medina is in custody tonight as we speak, charged with attempted second-degree murder, armed kidnapping, and armed false imprisonment. And I'm happy to bring in Florida State Trooper Jeffrey Publionis and his canine partner Rico, who are standing by live. Also, Dave Kerner is the executive director of Florida's Department of Highway Safety, and he's with us live as well. But Dave, you're going to have to take second fiddle to Rico right now, because who's a good boy is, I mean, look at this. Does he have a ball in his mouth right now, Jeffrey?
He does.
Is that how you're keeping him on camera? Because I've always been told, beware of interviews with children and pets, but that is one heck of a special pet. Walk me through yesterday, Trooper Publionis, and what happened with Rico, how he became a hero once again.
Well, I work in Orlando, and we heard what was aspiring down there in Tampa. There was a pursuit of a murder suspect, and there's a lot of pursuits that happened in Tampa. I didn't think it was going to make their way to Orlando, but they did. So I was waiting in the Sand Lake area as I'm listening to the pursuit over the radio, I'm waiting as they're going eastbound. As they get closer and closer, then finally the suspect vehicle passes me and Rico in my patrol car. So we jump into the pursuit. Rico and I are going after this car. The vehicle exits at John Young Parkway, where it ended up going over a curb, and it cannot drive anymore. So the lead officer gets out, challenges the driver, and I come out. He's giving him commands. I bring Rico out just in case. For a second, I thought he was going to come out and surrender, but then he reaches back into the vehicle, and with the person that this was, the situation, we knew his history, we knew what he was doing. He put us through a 3-county pursuit. We're not taking any chances, and we deployed Rico, and he did a great job.
So Rico got the perpetrator out of the car. Can I just ask you a personal question? Because I love dogs so much. You are at work right now with your dog. I'm going to tell you right now, my dog is at my feet on almost every single one of the shows that I do. It's Atlas. If he saw the screen right now, he wouldn't even bark. He's that good of a boy. So, look, we know Rico's good at what he does, and when you send him in to do the work, he can do it. Can you just manage him like with one command? Will he just lie down and relax, or is he just kind of always at the ready and wanting to chase something and get something and do some work?
Well, Rico and a lot of police dogs are very high driven. So these dogs are always ready to work. Right now, he knows when he has his toy, it's time to relax. He's not in work mode, but he can flip like just a switch, and he's ready to work. He loves working. That's what these dogs live for. But right now, he knows when he has his toy, it's time just to chill out.
Trooper Publionis, I need to ask you this as well. When you're in your vehicle and Rico's in the back, I watch a lot of cop shows, and I'm one of the sub-in hosts for On Patrol Live, and I always see the K9 and their handlers. And when you're on a chase, the dog is going bananas in the back. Is that the same story with Rico? Does he start howling like mad when you hit the gas?
Oh, once the sirens kick on, he already knows what time it is, and he cannot wait to get out of that car. So between the sirens, the dog, there's a lot going on, but he hears the sirens, and he already knows that he's probably going to be coming out of that vehicle. And he is excited, and I just hope he saves some energy for when he has to come out of that car. But yes, he hears the sirens, and he already knows.
I love that so much. Hey, Dave Kerner, I want you to jump in here with the kind of value. I love the cutesy pie interviews, and there's nothing like seeing a working police dog, but there is massive, massive policing value to these dogs. Give me just the color of what they mean to the work you do.
Actually, thank you. And you're right. Big time value. I'm always happy to take a back seat to our troopers, and particularly our four-legged troopers, and Rico in particular. He did amazing, heroic work. Florida is a law and order state. Governor DeSantis has empowered us to do our job. And a big part of that job is deploying these very well-trained, highly effective four-legged troopers. And they do God's work out there. We're proud of them.
I'm so happy to be able to bring this story to our audience because I just want everyone to know that Rico was already a star before what he did yesterday. He won Hero of the Year because he brought in $20 million worth of drugs, 2019 to 2020. He seized like massive, seizure of meth and cocaine. So this dog is just fantastic, and I'm so proud of your department and of Rico. I just also want to let you know, I don't know if we have a picture of Atlas on the floor here, because I just love the fact that we both have our dogs with us right now. There he is. This is what he does all the time, and he's not going to chase anybody or do anything other than just be super chill. But I'm really glad to put our dogs together on this set. Hey, you two, Trooper Jeffrey Publionis and Dave Kerner and Rico, thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashleigh.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, gosh, what a pleasure. You know, anytime you let us know the next big call, or you can come back anytime. Open invitation. Where's our good boy? Both of you. Okay, thanks, guys.
Sounds
Coming
good.
up. I love it. Soothes my voice, too, just to be able to look at a doggy. Next, are you the one? If you watch that MTV dating show, you're probably wondering if there's going to be a season 10. But if you are a cop in Florida, that was the question posed to contestant Connor Smith. As in, Are you the one who was trying to hook up with a 15-year-old girl online? It turns out they've cooked up quite a sting with a female detective posing as a kid. And while it took them 13 months to track him down, they got him. Guess where? Deputy Chief joins me next.
Let's take a look at those scenarios.
JP Morgan Wealth Management has advisors in Chase branches and tools like Wealth Plan to help keep you on track. When you're planning for it all, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
And now to a story about the one that got away until he didn't. I'm not talking about romance here. I'm talking about sex, crime, and comeuppance. And the star of the story is a contestant on an MTV dating show called Are You the One? As it turns out, the answer was yes, at least for the police. Little backstory here. Connor Smith became 15 minutes famous after trying his luck on the dating show back in 2015. Take a look.
We're walking around. It's like Jurassic Park, except different. Except not really at all, because it's the exact same. It's a big ass waterfall.
Say goodbye.
I'll be fine.
No, he's not.
Mom, I love you. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That was almost a decade ago and quite possibly the high point of Connor Smith's adult life. Because just last year, police say he started communicating online with a 15-year-old girl, or at least that's what he thought. Turns out, and let's say it all together here, it was a detective. And when I say communicating, Smith allegedly sent explicit photos and videos of himself and eventually made plans to meet the girl in a parking lot in Orlando Park, Illinois. Police, of course, were waiting when Smith arrived. He smelled a rat, took off like a bat out of hell, high-speed chase, ghost cards, the whole 9 yards, and he got away. And he stayed gone away for like more than a year. Tonight, however, police know exactly where Connor Smith is. Right there. Jail cell, Jail Orange, in Florida. He was arrested last Thursday in Clearwater on charges including grooming, disseminating harmful material, and traveling to meet a minor. The Lake County Sheriff's Department in Illinois tracked Connor Smith all year long. And earlier today, I spoke with Christopher Cavelli, the deputy chief.
We have to give a lot of credit to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office in Florida. They did an awesome job assisting us. We developed some information along with them after receiving tips from across the country from the community. They were awesome as well. And they were able to safely apprehend him at his girlfriend's house. He knew he was wanted. He had been actively evading apprehension, was hunkering down as low as he possibly could to avoid being seen. And they did a great job out there taking him into custody for us.
Will anything from his prior history come into play here? And I'm referring to something from back in 2021, unrelated to this offense. And that's a sexually assaulting a minor. Charges dismissed because that minor stopped cooperating. Can any of that be re-energized for this case?
Generally not. That would be a case if the authorities in that jurisdiction were able to further that investigation or reopen it, something potentially they could do. But as far as our case in Lake County, Illinois, we're focused specifically on the charges where he was communicating, sending lewd photos, lewd videos to who he thought was a girl under the age of 15.
Quick question. Was he ever able in these last 13 months, to your knowledge at this point, able to use his fame, MTV celebrity fame, to stay under the radar or to receive any kind of benefits in any way?
Not that we're aware of. We think probably, if anything, his fame and his notoriety from being on a national television show probably worked to his disadvantage, where he had to lay even lower at the risk of being seen and identified by somebody in the community.
Wondering if that's why he grew the big bushy beard, because he looks a lot different in the arrest photo than he does in the MTV show videos.
It certainly does, and it's a possibility. Oftentimes when someone is evading capture, avoiding apprehension, they do everything they can to change their appearance because they don't want to be identified. They don't want to be taken into custody.
Yeah. Big piece of advice for parents out there who are concerned that their young girls might be talking to people who are not who they say they are and could potentially be allegedly people like this.
Absolutely. We encourage all parents, monitor what your kids are doing on their devices. It is so important. And we all know how kids like to protect those devices. They don't want their parents going through them. But for their well-being, it is so important. We know who they're talking to. We know what applications they have installed. We know what those applications do, because that's how predators find these kids. They find the most vulnerable by going to where the kids are, engaging them in conversation, duping them into sending photos, receiving photos, and much worse, could result in a sexual assault, which was the intent here.
And my great thanks to Deputy Chief Christopher Covelli for that. Coming up next, a twisted tale involving a husband and the family nanny with a dash of infidelity, fetish sex, and a brutal double murder. It is not often that I get to report on the Banfield family, but I'm gonna next. Apart from the open to this show, I don't often see my own last name anywhere else. There is that chain of veterinary hospitals, but that's about it. So you can imagine when my name showed up in a police blotter in Virginia, I took a second look. And it turns out there's a Banfield family in Fairfax County, no relation that I know of, that is embroiled in quite the murder mystery. Tonight, their nanny is in jail and the mom is dead. More than a year ago, that mom, Christine Banfield, she was murdered inside her home, and so was another man, a visitor. And it was a huge mystery for months until prosecutors connected Christine's husband, Brendan Banfield, no relation that I know of, to the nanny, as in husband and the nanny were having an affair. Police say the plan was to log on to a fetish website and lure a stranger over to the house. And when the stranger arrived, he was killed, and so was Brendan's wife, Christine Banfield. It was supposed to look like a stranger did it, and off into the sunset the husband and the nanny would sail. That is until the arrest.